Hey guys, Mike here. Welcome back to another video on the channel. First off, season greetings. It has been a while since you've seen me, maybe a few weeks actually. Although the last video I put out was really just a small video to show you my progress of the turbo build I'm doing for this diesel engine here. But just behind me, I have the finished turbo with the manifold extension, so the Chrysler Voyager manifold. And I've also fabricated the stainless steel downpipe on there. Got this pretty much finished the other night. You can see it's a bit of a beast, and I'm just going to give you a little show of this, and then we're going to get it installed and then get the engine fired up, and hopefully this is the last time I have to take this thing and put it in the engine bay, because it's been in and out a million times to try and get all the clearances and everything else right. So I talked about the turbo in the last video. It's a GT2871R clone, dual ceramic ball bearing turbo. Obviously I can't really see how much boost it's producing with the vehicle in idle because there's just no load on the engine, so I actually really have to test drive it, and it's got an actuator here built into the turbo, you know, like a lot of them do, as opposed to an external one somewhere. So you know, I need to really dial this in and test it as I drive it, because I think this is going to produce a fair bit of boost. The back end is about the same size as the old turbo, so it spools up real quick. But obviously then we've got quite a large front end, so it's going to be pushing in or pulling in a lot of air. So I kind of need to test that out, and that's one reason why I haven't swapped out the intercooler, and I've left that 2.5-inch piping, which is a little bit too large for that engine really, and that very long charge pipe across the top with an intercooler really that I kind of want to swap out and get a one-sided intercooler, just shorten that charge pipe really. But this is the manifold adapter we built in that episode, you know, a few months back. Got that welded up by a mate of mine who does stainless TIG. Did a real nice job of that. And this is the downpipe I've made with basically 2 mil wall stainless, and I welded that myself with stainless MIG wire and argon gas, mainly because it's an exhaust, not an intake, so I don't have to worry about stuff getting sucked in. But the pipes are clear because they overlap, so that's not too bad. I've got to say I'm really happy with the way it's turned out. It's turned out much better than I thought it would. The main thing really was to kind of do away with the old setup. I've got a spare engine sitting on a stand, and if you look at that, that is set up exactly how the original engine is set up. You've got a turbo tucked underneath an exhaust manifold. It's right next to the starter motor. To change that starter motor, you actually have to take the motor mount off on that side of the vehicle, jack the vehicle up. You know, I've said it all before, you know, sometimes you've got to take the turbo off. It gets very, very challenging to work on the engine. It's not something you look forward to working on. It's a begrudged thing, and I kind of wanted to move away from that and make it easier to service as well as gain performance, make it look awesome. And so here we go, installation time. It's very, oops, that's a good one. Yep. So that basically drops in like that. Gonna leave it there. Yeah, just gonna connect up all the hoses, which looks like it's gonna be a shit job actually, mainly because of this big fat thermal blanket thing. Did I mention this is fun? Another Biltema hose clamp to the grave. I think every one I bought from Biltema, every hose clamp just died. And the first time I tested the vehicle, loads of them were leaking. So I've got some from work that we use because they don't do that. Okay. So I've connected the oil drain, and I've just put the oil feed on, which is just that braided high pressure hose that goes back to the block. And I've just put the oil pressure sensor on. So this oil pressure sensor is actually ordered directly from Jeep for this vehicle, but it gives the wrong reading. I don't think there's a problem with the sensor, I think it's the wrong one. I can't find the one I need. I broke the one, the original one on the engine trying to take it off. My spare has a completely different mechanical sensor on it. So I've bought an analog sensor that will tap in there, 1/8 MPT, braided hose all the way to the engine bay, and I can keep an actual eye on true oil pressure. But maybe I need to put it in the block. We'll see what the pressure is first, and I'll play around with it. Everything's rigged up now. Just putting in the 4 flange bolts on the T2. Decided I am going to put the cooler in. This is the old cooler. I'm just going to sit it in place like that, maybe put some rubber there. It actually bolts into these brackets on the front cross member. This is the charge pipe I want to replace, this long one here. Just really because it's going to contribute towards boost lag, but first I really need to see what this setup does. That top pipe connects to this pipe here. Well, there's two pipes actually. I mean, this is from a slightly different setup, so I kind of had to butcher it to make it work, but it should work fine. Ideally, this should come out further and hug the cowl, and then we have a curved one-piece pipe going around the radiator instead of, you know, three small pieces. But this setup is working for the time being until I swap everything out in terms of the cooler and the pipes. But you can see it's given me very little room here, and I've kind of been spending some time getting this intake sorted. I basically bought this 30-degree bend here, which curves nicely into this piece of 3-inch aluminium pipe. That comes around here, and it's a really short piece of pipe. And we've got another silicone piece here with a 38mm piece of hose coming off of it, and that's where I've pushed in the MAF sensor. My original design was this. In fact, the piece of aluminium you're seeing in the vehicle now is exactly the same dimension as that, so he's really short, but I cut a hole in it and I basically glued and strapped on the fitting for the MAF sensor. Yeah, it really wasn't very good. I mean, I'm not sure whether the MAF sensor will function how it's intended to be. I mean, I believe that they can function in a number of different ways, so the actual internal diameter of the pipe that the MAF sensor is in plays a role in air pressure and everything else. And now that we've got a 3-inch pipe instead of a 2.5-inch internal diameter pipe, maybe there's some issues there with the MAF. But all in all, it's a pretty old school engine, and it's pretty dumb when it comes to electronics. I mean, you put an ODB on it, it doesn't tell you anything. Obviously the next step is to get a exhaust in there. I've got this nice stainless steel setup here with a big flexi on, you know, so hopefully that should stop any potential cracking of the downpipe. But I might actually build a bracket at the bottom of the downpipe and have that connected to the block in some way, shape or form, so it's even tougher and it's not just relying on being connected to the turbo with welds. But for the time being, this is going on. I've got no silencer just yet. I'm going to probably cut that one off, put a bracket on the back of that and connect it up to the original setup really, and run that for now, though I'd like to swap that out because this is way too large and it's making a horrible sound. Sounds awful, to be quite honest. I want it a lot quieter. I'm just connecting it with a clamp, stainless steel clamp. Make it nice and easy to take off. There we go. My only issue now is that it's super close to the upper control arm. That's free floating, which is cool. Got to chop that at the bottom, but that sucks monkey dicks, really, doesn't it? I mean, just gonna have to be a 3-link kit. Oh dear! Should have factored that in. I guess I can always chuck a bend in it. One job I need to do is figure out what to do with this, whether to have it or not. Somebody mentioned to me that instead of having a catch can for the PCV, it could be vented to atmosphere. So normally this pipe would just go straight into the air intake post filter. That would suck in oil vapour, water vapour and blow by gas from the piston rings out of the sump and send it back through the system again. Which I guess in the long run can do your engine some harm. So people put these cans in the middle, you know, kind of in between basically the hose, so it catches all that gunk, and then you have a level like this and a drain at the bottom, so you can basically drain all the gunk out of this can maybe once a year. And some of them actually have a media filter in, but I chose not to go with that just because, you know, it's like -23 at the moment outside, and if all the water freezes in this, you get big problems. But somebody mentioned to me you shouldn't reconnect this here. You should just have it like that, venting out to atmosphere. I don't remember the name of the guy who commented, but he had a lot of experience by the sounds of it. And he said venting to atmosphere was much better for the engine, and obviously, you know, better for the air intake system, because better for the intercooler. You're not getting like oil vapor and stuff then kind of going back through the system. So maybe you could comment in the comment section below and let me know. I don't know whether it's okay to vent this to atmosphere. I mean, as far as I was thinking, not oil contamination, but the life for the oil would be a lot less without this system in place, due to condensation and stuff in the sump, and you know, maybe pressures would build up. I don't know. I mean, it still goes round the back and connects to the valve cover actually, but then there's another line that comes off of it and goes to this can to the intake. So I don't fully understand the system. So maybe some people could point that out to me. I'm guessing it's separating something there. Is separating oil, or is it separating something and sending something back through the valve cover, and the rest goes through the intake? I'm not sure, actually. I don't know. Maybe I should use the internet. That would probably help. But anyway, this is GP's big moment. This is what I've been working towards for months. It's taken ages to do this job, and to be honest with you, I'm a little bit nervous about starting it, although this isn't the first time I've started it a couple of times since then, just to test the turbo and the oil drain, everything, make sure oil's going through the system. This is the first big startup with everything in place, and you know, obviously the manifolds have been off and stuff since those other startups. So you know, you start thinking maybe a nut dropped in the intake manifold, maybe a washer or a bit of a cable tie you chop went zoop, straight in the intake, and yeah, you start sketching. But just to note, I've done a fresh oil change on the vehicle. Obviously you don't want to be running a new turbo on old oil. Engine restore, I use that with every oil change. I'm not sponsored. I've used this for the last 5 years, each possibly badge not included. But it does actually work really well, to be fair. And you know, it's got fresh glycol in it. I've cleaned the air filter because it's a washable one. It's like a kind of K&N copy. And then I've you know, basically put a wool sock over it, because I add that to the filter basically to add, you know, more filtration. But to be honest, that air intake system's quite restricted, so it needs swapping out, and so is the cooler. And obviously cable tie, hold that up, make it look pretty, whatever. But and a cable tie to hold this back too, so it's not going to like get tempted to commit suicide against the fan. But that's it. Stop talking. Stop the engine. Freezing in and out, because I got all the doors open, and the door at the back's just open ajar. So the mask is just for you know, it's a gas mask, so it just takes away the particulates and stuff. But it works. It sounds great. And I'm just going to leave it running now. It's not been started for a long time, so I'm just going to leave it running for maybe 25 minutes, let the battery charge, let the oil get warm, you know, just let it do its thing, let the coolant temperature rise, and then that'll tell me if there's any leaks, because then the pressure builds up. And that's it, and then I'll come back and conclude the video when it's over. Well, that's it. it's all done, but it isn't, is it? There's always a lot more to do. But in terms of that particular segment of building up the engine with the turbo, that was a real big deal for me. I mentioned it like 4 or 5 videos ago. I started doing videos about the engine, and it's taken me a very long time to get this far, basically. I mean, the car's been off the road since July. Obviously, I had loads of body work to do, like the drip rail rebuild. That was massive. And then moving on to the engine, another massive job, 2 massive jobs really, and then paint. I forgot, I painted the whole vehicle really, the Raptor liner and all the masking off, and new undercoat underneath the vehicle. Did all the, cavity wax stuff that I do kind of every about 4 or 5 years actually, to be honest with you, these days. But I've done it about 3 times in the last 7 years, so can't really say that. But just a lot of work to get it in a very nice state that I don't have to kind of do these massive jobs again. Now, obviously the engine build, there's some things to bear in mind now. Obviously I need to test drive it, and then I need to potentially adjust some stuff. Maybe I got terrible boost lag because I've gone with a turbo that's too large. But I did deliberately choose one where the turbine side on the exhaust side is roughly almost the same size as the existing turbo. It's just the front that's a lot bigger. So the idea was it would pull in more air, but not have too much of an issue spooling up. Whether or not that's correct or not, I don't know. A lot of people say a lot of different things, so I got to try it out really. But one way to eliminate boost lag would be to basically do away with this, as I've said a million times. I'm going to get the other intercooler with the little 2-inch adapter here and a 2-inch adapter there, and I'm going to basically run that up on a little bend, and then kind of run it round like that. So it's going to be a bit of a tough one, because I don't want to butcher the light housing any more than I have done because of this pipe. So that is another job, and obviously a new air intake, as in the filter system. That one's garbage. A new exhaust silencer and an output pipe, which I have put back on, but it would be nice to get something a little bit quieter, so when you put your foot down it's not like which it is at the moment, which I'm not really feeling, to be honest with you. But it's my own fault for building it that way. But in terms of other jobs, got bead locks coming next week. I might do a video on it if people want to see a video of me putting bead locks on, but I've never put them on before, so there's not really any point in me showing you how to do that, because basically it would just be me screwing everything up. So I've got some bead locks specifically for winter use. The reason I did that was because, well, if you've never driven deep snow, you might not understand that in order to drive very deep snow, and I'm talking like 80 centimetres to a metre deep, you need to float. There's no other way around it. And the temperature has a really big difference on what the snow does and your traction. When it's extremely cold, like -25, -30, the snow becomes like little pearls, like beads. And actually traction is quite poor. When it's like -10, the snow starts to kind of be it's -10 to -15. It's actually a really good temperature for snow wheeling, to be honest with you. I've found anyway. Traction's really good. The snow's very easy to push. And then if it snows in the meantime, the snow's generally quite light as well and can be pushed pretty easily. The same when it's like -20 and stuff, but it's a bit different kind of on foot in those temperatures, to be honest with you. But towards the end of the winter, when it gets really warm, and I mean like -4, and then into like the pluses, like 3 degrees, 4 degrees, 5 degrees plus, but there's still, let's say, 1 metre of snow on the ground that's reduced down, let's say, to like 80 centimetres. It's impossible to push that snow. You cannot push it. It is too heavy. And you might start the day at 12 o'clock. The sun might be out and the snow might be warm on top. So you think, oh, this is not too bad. I can push a bit of this snow and I'm making some progress. You go wheeling, the day goes by, and then it gets to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. And you think, well, let's go home. It's nearly time for dinner now. But what's happening is that the temperatures have started to drop. It's going down -7, -10. And then the snow on that surface that you've been pushing around all day is getting really hard because it's becoming ice. And you can't push it anymore. So what happens is you drive up onto it a little bit because it becomes a crust, but your car falls through because it's still soft underneath. And then you're essentially bellied up, your wheels are doing nothing, and you have to dig your way out. And the winch gets strained heavily trying to pull you out of that sort of thing too. So you've got to be very careful about how you winch yourself out as well. So those situations call for very, very low tyre pressures. And that's why I've specifically ordered a set of bead locks just for the winter. I won't run them in the summer. And what I've been doing is I've got my Cooper ST Max PORs over there with studs. Nice winter tyre. They're not really a winter tyre, more of a mud/AT tyre. But, you know, I've studded the hell out of them, so they work quite well. But I've been just taking my BFG KM3s off of the rim at work and putting the other tyres on, you know, and that's kind of the way I've been going with it. But that's getting annoying. Sometimes I'm running tyre pressures as low as 4 psi to get out of situations. That's sketchy when the family's on board and it's cold, in case the tyre comes off of the rim. You know, he comes off the bead and then you have more work to do. So going with bead locks can go real low pressures, can start to relax a bit more in those situations. But that's really where I'm going to end this video. If you do have any information on the vent to atmosphere sort of set up for a catch can, let me know. I'm still unsure about that. It doesn't really feel right for me to let that happen. I think sucking the blow-by out of the sump seems like it would help with pressure not building up as much, if you know what I mean. So anyway, lots more to do, SYE kits and re-gearing and then it's the inside. But now I'm going to put this vehicle back together, I'm going to drive it, and those other jobs I will do whilst having fun with it. So hopefully in the next video you see me out and about in the snow. Probably won't do a video on putting the bead locks on because never done it before, and you know, why would I do a video on that? You know, there's so many videos of people putting bead locks on. I don't know what I'm doing, but maybe we'll have a look. And thanks for watching. Thanks for following. For the 3 of you left, I appreciate it. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.